FCS Fans Nation, welcome to FCS Sundays The Overtime, a weekly recap show of the top 25 and the Playoff Eliminator. Thank you for tuning in wherever you get your FCS Fans Nation podcast, because we know FCS is best and where the playoffs are done right. Let's get into this.
FCS Fans Nation, welcome to FCS Sunday, the Overtime. And as you can tell, it has been quite the weekend. I am a little short on my voice, so I invited our friend Kyler Neal to help me get through 25 teams this week. So much more action this week than last week, and it lived up to the billing. Holy smokes.
Yeah, this week was insane. I mean, talk about pure chaos. Talk about parody. We haven't had anything like this since since I remember. I'm sure there has been 10 plus years ago, but the parody, the type of chaos, the upsets, I think there was 10 ranked teams that are basically considered upsets. So all I know is I'm only rocking people, who win. So I'm wearing my JMU gear because I guess someone got really mad at me because they thought I hated JMU. And I'm also wearing my Vandals stuff. Sorry, Eastern fans. Wearing the Vandies.
Hey, well, we'll get into that game here in a hot second. With this craziness that was this FCS Saturday and a little bit of Sunday. What's up, Ohio Valley? We get start off the Sunday of the top 25 quick hitter with a Delaware did not play. How exciting is that? But then we get right into the meat of these matchups. You touched on it. A lot of movement coming this week in the top 25. At number 24, you have Elon. Sorry. I got corrected on that for pronouncing it incorrectly too. They lost 20-42 at Gardner-Webb.
Yeah, this is almost because it's Gardner-Webb, it's not to be expected. But Elon, they're down to the third string quarterback. Davis Cheek, he has an awesome brother on our page who's been hyping up their brother for a couple years now, and Cheek was a stud, but he's injured. The backup's injured. I even thought a third string quarterback would still be able to take Elon over Gardner-Webb, but Brian from Hero Sports keep saying Gardner-Webb is on the rise. Gardner-Webb's on the rise. Now, are they really on the rise, or is Elon just completely done due to just tough injuries? Playing a third string quarterback is always tough to really adapt from. So, it's almost what's expected when you're down that far on the depth chart.
Yeah, it's just weird right now seeing the CAA. We'll get into it. A lot of did not plays. Nobody looking super stellar. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the Colonial Athletic Conference. Next up at 23, we have Tennessee Tech. They lost today 10-27 at Jacksonville State.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I don't really know how Tennessee Tech was rated to begin with. They beat Austin Peay last week, so they kind of got a little bit of a bump. But I didn't have Tennessee Tech on my radar. And Jacksonville State, they kind of did what they were doing in the fall. They have a lot of prep. They have a lot of talent. They got size. And I actually like Zion, their quarterback, their backup quarterback who took over for Cooper. I think he makes smarter decisions. Their run game's stout. Their line looks good. Their defense looks aggressive. I think the OVC is Jacksonville State's to win. I think it's also theirs to lose. If they play their game, they should be running through the OVC, and they'll continue to work their way up the ranking.
Yeah, this is a big one for Jacksonville State, I think, just because you got against a team that at least had something going into this week. And then also, where we're going to see a fall off. They definitely won the fall. They were probably the best, most successful team in the fall of teams that played. But how are they going to do having those seasons so lapped together? As you see, they came out and doing maybe Tennessee Tech is in the top 25 team, but still a nice 17-point win for the Gamecocks.
Yeah, they looked good today.
Yep. Next up, Talk about somebody that might surprise people. Were included in the rankings. We have Tarleton State. The Texans lose 14-26 at Dixie State, or home versus Dixie State. For me, I called this one on the actual podcast with Matthew Frazee last week. I said Tarleton State, while looking good, which I still think they are a good team, my whole thing was I think Dixie looks good, and I don't think you can take anything away from that New Mexico State big win they had the previous week, because New Mexico State is literally playing for nothing against a team who's playing for everything. So that's my take on the Texans and the Trailblazers. First of many future WAC matchups between these two.
Yeah, looking at these two teams play, I mean, it does make you excited for the WAC. But people just jumped on that Tarleton State bandwagon because, they played a double overtime win, loss versus McNeese, who McNeese did not look good at all this week. And then, of course, they got their FBS win, and it's the only FBS team that's playing in the spring. Like you said on the podcast, is New Mexico State even using this as real games, or is this another spring drill? They didn't look up to the challenge. So I think Tarleton State was like the new hit vote, but it wasn't a real reality. New Mexico State is not a top 50, not a top 75 FCS team if they were in the FCS, especially if they're just playing practice. So it was a good win for Dixie. That was an awesome first win, though. Yeah,
big. I mean, both these teams right now, right? Yeah. Like, both look so promising. We'll see how it goes the rest of the year because it's both wonky. Then we get to finally our first team that was able to get a win in the 20 through 25 category. Southeast Missouri, SEMO, big win, 47-7 versus East Illinois.
Yeah, so I did not get to watch this game, so I don't know how it went, but I mean, just by looking at the scoreboard, SEMO did exactly what SEMO is supposed to do. They are, the next pretty much, I guess you would say, the next hot commodity in the OVC. A lot of people probably picked them to win the OVC with Jacksonville State and Austin Peay. I'm not sold on Austin Peay. SEMO is the real deal. They look like they could be a potential playoff team. But, I mean, I think still, again, Jacksonville State, they're the team to beat in the OVC right now. But good win for SEMO, man. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to do if you're a top 25 team.
Yep. And then after that, at number 20, before we get into the teams, was Monmouth, who is not playing today. It's nice to have less of these. And we've kind of touched on this one at number 19. McNeese looked like a team that might be back to being a little bit more of a blue blood, even though they struggled against Tarleton, but we thought Tarleton was good. Here we are, McNeese L, 20-48 against Incarnate Word.
Yeah, this was a game. I mean, the score makes it look closer than the game really was, too. At halftime, I think it was like 35-3 or something ridiculous like that. I don't remember the actual score, but the sophomore quarterback from Incarnate Word, he looks to be a stud. Cameron Ward, he had 4 touchdowns. He's a big dude, too, 6'3", 225 pounds plus. He may be able to cause some havoc in the Southland there. I was not expecting McNeese to go down with to Incarnate Word, but here we are. It's a little bit of upset Saturday.
Yeah, it's been an insane weekend in the FCS. And we move on, it just continues. So this one, a little bit more, one of the more expected matchups. Let's put it this way. You're looking at the most evenly matched here. We'll cover. We had number 17 playing number 18. Number 17 being Sam Houston hosting Southeastern Louisiana. The Bearcats are able to pull out a 43-38 win against Sela, which means the higher ranked team pulls out a close win against a conference rival.
Yeah, I have Sam Houston State in my top 10 right now. This was one of those games, though, and it's kind of different from what I thought. I thought Sam Houston State would win, but I was really hyping up their defense last year. Their defense was so underrated. They had like 4 shutouts or something ridiculous. They were a top-tier defense last year, and now this Sam Houston team in their first game back looks like the Sam Houston of the old. They're ready to get in shootouts. They're ready to sling the ball. I mean, they had each team had over 400 passing yards. There was over 500 and 600 total yards of offense. I mean, this was your typical Southland or Big Sky old school shootout where whoever has the ball last is most likely going to win, which is surprising because I thought Sam Houston's defense was going to come into play and kind of shut it down, maybe be a lower scoring game. Nope. These are the games that are fun. Huge game, huge win for Sam Houston.
Yeah, I think you are going to see the Bearcats kind of the season already looks so weird. I think they're setting up nicely to kind of reclaim some of that lost previous glory. We're, number 15, New Hampshire, has still yet to play a game. Interesting to see how that affects them in the ranking. Number 14, there's a lot of big ones. Here's maybe the biggest one, North Dakota. Not the Bison, the Fighting Hawks were number 14. They host the Jackrabbits of Brookings, South Dakota, and come away with a 28-17 win. This is back-to-back top 5 wins for North Dakota.
Yeah, I mean, North Dakota, they are getting shot out of a cannon. The last few years, Missouri Valley fans have just made fun of me when I said North Dakota was going to be better in the Missouri Valley than they were in the Big Sky. I did not anticipate this. I thought they would be able to beat pretty much the Illinois states and down, not the South Dakota states. It was a good game until the fourth quarter, and North Dakota started just controlling every aspect of the game, just like they kind of did against Southern Illinois last week. I mean, this North Dakota team, as of right now in all of the FCS, they have the best resume. They have arguments for number one. Are people going to put them there? That's a different question. But they have the best current resume in the FCS. And right now, like, will it last? I don't know. But we got to start putting respect under their name. The Fighting Hawks, man. They're doing some good things to start the season. It's been crazy.
Yeah, and I said back-to-back top 5. I meant top 15. But the Fighting Hawks absolutely are looking good. And as I have it right now, my polls are still very fluid. I'm figuring some things out, doing some research after returning back from the road. But North Dakota right now is my one. I'm thinking I'm going to move it around a bit. But at least if you're a North Dakota fan, you're getting considered for a one from people. Like, whether it ends up being there or not, when was the last time you could say that? And we try to keep this as neutral as possible. Yeah.
Never. No one's ever been able to say that about, this is the other North Dakota, guys. This is not the state.
Yeah.
This is the other one up in the north, the highest and most northern team in the FCS. I mean, it's pretty impressive. They're coming out guns blazes. They want the Missouri Valley title the first year.
Yep. Speaking of a team that also isn't playing out of the CAA, you have the Albany Great Danes are a DNP this week. Next up, number 12, the Eastern Washington Eagles lose 21-28 at Idaho in the Kibbe Dome.
Yeah, I mean, like I think you and I all said before this game, this is going to be a tough battle, and it's really going to be who wants it more. It's a rivalry game through and through already. The first couple of years have been pretty insane. I mean, there's some really weird things that happened in this game, but at the end of it, if you're asking me which team performed better towards the end anyway, Idaho wanted it more in the second half. We can talk about the refs. We could talk about the blind calls. We could talk about, Kyler sending the Kibbe Dome some GoPros so then, they can actually see some things. But at the end of the day, the whole second half, Idaho shut down Eastern Washington. They were able to really do what they wanted. They controlled it. So even if, let's say, Eastern Washington goes up with that 3 points, sure, field position changes. Sure, maybe Idaho's not as aggressive on 3rd 11 and they go for the tie, but then it goes into overtime. I'm probably picking Idaho to win in overtime just of how the momentum was shifting in that game anyway in the second half. So it was weird. I almost feel bad for Idaho fans as well as Eastern fans because guess what? We lost from it could have been a weird play. Something else could have happened. Idaho fans also have an asterisk to where they don't really even get to celebrate the win as much as they should because you guys controlled the second half. It's going to make for an exciting game when you guys come to Roos. I guess the build-up for that one, the pissed off on both sides. Idaho's going to want to prove it. Eastern Washington thinks they were gypped. It's fun. It is what it is. It was crazy.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm going to talk about this game a couple more times this week, so I'll leave it short on here. But yeah, it's a big win for Idaho, and I think it'll be curious to see are the pollsters going to reflect this better on Idaho or worse on Eastern? Is this a Eastern didn't look good, so we should drop them out of the polls or further down in the polls, or is this a Idaho looked good, we should move them up in the polls? So we'll be curious to see how FCS stats
or is it neither
tomorrow. Yeah, or neither.
Or they both didn't look good.
Same, but different. Next up, number 11, Wofford. They come in clumps. We have another clump of 3 losses in a row here. Wofford loses 13-24 at Chattanooga, the Mocs, baby.
Yeah, I know Wofford, they're trying to throw the ball more. They're tired of just being that triple option team, so they're trying to throw the ball a little bit more. It's not working out for them. Their system right now is built for the triple option. I don't think they have the athletes to really spread the field. But Chattanooga, they were shutting down the run. They were shutting down the pass. I mean, I think Wofford has a lot of issues right now in the quarterback. He's a young kid. He's going to continue to improve. But Jimmy, man, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know if you should keep throwing the ball or hand it off. But Wofford's not looking pretty in the grand scheme of things.
All right, and now we are into our top 10. Kyler, do you want this one? I feel like this is a little redemption on your part here.
I just, if I could drop this mic, I would drop it in front of all of you. It is what it is. It's what we all knew. It's my rant. People were yelling at my rant saying that was uncalled for. SoCon strong. All of this random crap. Guess what? VMI has been a dumpster fire forever. They have not been good. Now they've had some, competitive teams with, the military branch type of teams because they get up for those games, and they are improving year over year. They're continuing to improve. Hopefully in the next 5 years, VMI becomes a real true threat to their conference. But Furman was never a top 10 team in the last 15 years. They aren't a top 15 team now. I mean, a top 10, and it's just proving it. My rant was justified. End of discussion. Mic drop.
Yeah, so for those of you that were following along, the Furman Paladins lose 13-14, hosting VMI, I believe, which now I haven't written it down, but I felt like I saw it the other way. Either way, on to the next one. If you lose, you don't get a lot of time spent on you. Number 9, Nichols, taking Lamar to the woodshed, 55-0 at home.
I mean, Nichols, the competition level is not quite up there. Lamar out of Beaumont, I drove through that campus last, a couple weeks ago. It's not that impressive. I'm sorry, guys. But Nichols, they are coming in hot even with their weak type of competition. They are doing what a good team should do versus their weak competition. They scored 83 last week. They scored 55 this week. They've outscored their opponents 130-something to 3. This Nichols looks good. Nichols, the Southland overall with Sela, Sam Houston State with Nichols. There's going to be a battle. I mean, the Southland this year, they might be the third best team after, or the third best conference after like the Montana State's opted out. I'll say it right here, right now, there's a lot of strong top tier teams out of the Southland, and they're looking good.
Yep, indeed. Next up, another win. Number 8, Kennesaw State, able to take care of business. 35-3 versus Shorter. I mean, I feel like we don't have to spend a lot of time on this one. Congratulations to the Owls.
Yeah, Shorter is a team who went 1-10 last year, a D2 team, and they had like 7 blowouts of 30-plus points or more. I'm going to say it. Kennesaw, you turned it on at the end, but you were struggling for most of the game. It was 14-3 at halftime, 3-0 in the first quarter, favoring Shorter. You guys need to pick it up. If you want to be a top 10 team, you cannot struggle to a D2 team who had 1 win last year. That was not a good showing for Kennesaw.
Yeah. Next up, number 7, one that I think kind of just gets a little swept under the radar with everything else that went on this week. Illinois State, the Redbirds, lose 20-27 versus South Dakota. The Coyotes get the dub.
The Coyotes get the dub, and right now we are seeing exactly what Illinois State was last year. They were a really solid, decent team when you had James Robinson that you're able to hand off. We saw what he did at the NFL. Now without him, you got to throw more. They threw 4 interceptions. They still had a little bit of a rushing game, but I don't think Illinois State is a top 4 team in the Valley. I don't think they were ever a top 10 team to begin the season. I didn't have him in my top 10, and it's because when you lose your only offensive production and he's killing it in the NFL, you see how important he is. Illinois State, you're not going to be who you thought you were. It's going to struggle. The Valley's pretty tough at the very top. You're going to have a few losses at the end of this year.
Yeah. Next up,
shout out to South Dakota. They played good.
They deserve the credit there. Missouri Valley looking to be in a weird spot this year. South Dakota, North Dakota appear to be doing good. Meanwhile, actually, fun fact, throw it to the historians. When was the last weekend North Dakota and South Dakota won, and South Dakota State and North Dakota State lost? It's probably been a while.
Never. Probably never.
Maybe the 60s. I don't know. Holy smokes, though. Speaking of holy smokes, Villanova, DNP. We're into the top 5. At number 5, Northern Iowa win 21-zip versus Youngstown, the Penguins.
Yeah, right now, Northern Iowa versus Youngstown, it was very similar to Youngstown versus North Dakota State last week. Youngstown does not have a good offense. They cannot get the ball rolling. North Dakota State had a good defense last week. UNI has a stellar defense as well. The good thing is at least Youngstown State has a very tough defense to where they're able to keep their opponents low scoring. But right now, they do not have an offense to keep the games close. That's kind of the downfall for Youngstown State, and UNI did exactly what UNI should do. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's for those of you that watch and listen to the regular podcast, you can thank Tubbs High Roller. I believe the over-under was 39, and I said both these offenses look terrible. They should definitely be under. And you had room to spare in this game. At the end of the day, though both offenses were terrible, UNI has a better offense, and that's what it showed. Youngstown has some things to figure out there at the quarterback position. Number 4, Weber State. Big win, 49-21 against Idaho State and Pocatello. But is it enough to maybe get them the 1 spot?
Right now it's a 3-headed race at the very top. Here's something Weber's pretty excited about. They had 600 yards of offense versus Idaho State. Last year they had about 450 total yards of offense. So Idaho State is not known for their defensive prowess. But one thing we have to look at right now, also Weber, last year they only gave up like 100 total yards to Idaho State, where Idaho State had like 300 and something. So maybe Weber State's a little more balanced. Maybe their offense is a lot better under that true freshman quarterback. He looked like a stud, even though he's, probably 30 because he went on a mission. But maybe the defense is not looking as hot for Weber State, or maybe just Idaho State's offense is getting better. I don't know, but this was a game. Weber did what we expected Weber to do. They showed that they are a top caliber team. They have arguments to be anywhere between 1, 2, and 3.
Yep, I 100% agree. Next up, speaking of number 3, South Dakota State. We already covered it a little bit, but they get the L here. They were all the way up to number 3 in the rankings. You'll be curious to see how far they fall. Any off the top of your head here? Still top 5?
I think South Dakota State has a more benefit of the doubt to be top 5 because at least they have a win over UNI. So North Dakota, that's kind of the surprise team. I don't know what's going to happen. Are people going to be instant reactionary, but then not look at the resumes and push South Dakota State below a team that they are to beat? I don't think that's fair when both teams are 1-1. You really have to focus on that head-to-head. I could see UNI dropping and South Dakota State dropping just because you have to keep that fair. But I don't know. South Dakota State should be ahead of UNI, and right now UNI was 5 on the polls. So I don't see a lot of change. Maybe drop 1, maybe drop 2, unless you're doing the right thing and pushing UNI down as well.
Yep. Next up, something that you expected to see a little bit more of that nickel-style score here. Number 2, James Madison. I don't want to say squeak out, but a underwhelming win in their standards against at home versus Robert Morris, 36-16.
Yeah, my number 1 team, my Dukes, took care of business this weekend. No, here's the deal, man. Robert Morris is not a good caliber team. They're just not. Cade Johnson did not look good in the first half. JMU struggled. It was like 16 at half. But guess what? JMU has talent. They have depth. They were able to do what JMU was supposed to do all game, and they figured it out in the second half. Robert Morris couldn't run anything on them. I think they had like -2 yards rushing at the second half or some ridiculous number. But JMU in the second half was completely different from JMU in the first half. The only thing that makes me nervous about JMU moving forward is their toughest game, Elon, is now looking like it's not even close to being a tough game. Are they going to be battle tested? They still have the talent. They still have the depth. They're a really good team. They can put it on anyone. But when you're struggling a little bit versus Robert Morris, and this might be your toughest game or one of them all season, that's not a good idea for JMU when they're going into the playoffs. I mean, we'll see what happens, though.
Yep, and we said they wouldn't really be tested. We wouldn't really know anything about them until the playoffs. I'm still early weeks, trying not to take too much away from it, but we'll see. Week 3, this will be a big one. Speaking of a big one, we've kind of hinted at it all show. What a way to wrap it up. North Dakota State, the team in FCS history. Sorry, App State. Sorry, Montana, Georgia Southern, like Sam Houston. This is your team. Go down in very surprising fashion, 14-38 at Southern Illinois. The Salukis coming up big, and this, to be fair, it wasn't even that close. The bits that I caught of it, I didn't catch any of the second half, but even the first half, it felt like Southern Illinois was in control, and NDSU almost felt lucky to be hanging around.
Realistically, this game could have been as easily as 38-0 as it was 38-14. To end the first half, Zeb had a lucky Hail Mary that was tipped into another wide receiver's hands. Zeb was not looking good that first half, and it did not change even the second half. They had a garbage time TD. I mean, realistically, I'm actually viewing this game as 38-0. Southern Illinois came in there, blew the brakes off North Dakota State. It wasn't just Zeb looking bad. He's slow. He has a slow release. He doesn't look like he has multiple reads. He's not looking confident. This is not the typical North Dakota State quarterback we've seen, but North Dakota State was getting bullied everywhere on the line, offensive and defensive side of the ball. Southern Illinois, they look better in every single position besides maybe the speed of Christian Watson, but that's about it. Hats off to Southern Illinois. This was the win of the decade. Even though you guys lost to North Dakota last week, at least you can hold your hats high. You just beat the team who has not lost a game since November 4th of 2017. This was nuts. I mean, North Dakota State didn't look good last week offensively, but I did not think a team would do this to them ever.
No, not anytime soon. You'd think maybe a couple years where they were going, not now. Like, this is absolutely a shocker. So in a week full of teams of the week, the Salukis, you are FCS Sunday Overtime's team of the week this week. That's it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you check the regular podcast releasing we're usually releasing it like Thursday. But we want to appreciate you guys for checking it out and bearing with me and my voice loss and my lack of knowledge on a couple of these games as I was at a live game. So I had to go all strictly phone scores, and that's a lot of keeping track. But Kyler, thank you for joining me.
I got you, buddy.
And we'll see you guys all next Sunday on FCS Sundays, The Overtime.